Hey, welcome. Today we're going to dive into a really different and honestly a very hopeful way of looking at cellular health, especially when it comes to breast cancer. We're going to explore the science behind not just preventing it, but the potential for reversing it, all based on some pretty incredible stories and some fascinating research. So let's just jump right in with a story that really sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. These are the actual words from a woman whose journey just completely blew her doctor's minds. And to really get how she got to this point, this miracle, you first have to understand her diagnosis. So get this, she felt totally fine, was eating a healthy, organic diet, and then a routine mammogram comes back with this. And we're not talking about a minor issue here. This was a really aggressive, advanced type of breast cancer. Her entire world was just flipped upside down in a single moment. So, of course, the medical team came back with a plan, and it was the one you'd expect, an immediate and very aggressive treatment schedule. This is the standard path, and for a lot of people, it's the only option they're given. But for her, this whole journey started with a really life-threatening turn. I mean, in her very first chemo session, within the first minute, she had a severe, almost fatal reaction. Her lungs started filling with fluid, she literally couldn't breathe, and the pain that came after was just unbelievable. It left her in bed for 2 solid weeks. And after that, she just decided, that's it, I am never doing chemo again, no matter what happened. So, saying no to more conventional treatment, she started on a completely different path, one guided by her friends, a high-dose micronutrient regimen. Basically, it was this targeted mix of specific vitamins and antioxidants, all designed to help her body's own natural defenses. She followed it religiously, every single day, all while a new oncologist was basically just monitoring her, fully expecting to see the cancer spread. And this is where the story gets really wild. The reaction from the medical team, the surgeon was just in total disbelief. The oncologist thought, well, the PET scan must be wrong, it must have missed something, and immediately ordered an MRI to double check. And that MRI confirmed it. The tumor they had been tracking was gone. An outcome like that just forces you to ask a really big question, right? How on earth could something like that happen? And to answer it, we have to go deeper into the actual science of how a totally normal cell can turn into a cancer cell to begin with. So, how do we make sense of this? Well, it turns out the story we just heard isn't some random fluke. It's actually rooted in a specific scientific framework from Dr. Kedar Prasad, who's a huge name in micronutrient research. And his work really gives us a whole new way to think about our health, at the cellular level. You see, according to Dr. Prasad's research, cancer doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's actually a 2-step process. First, there's this initiation phase, where our cells are just slowly collecting damage over years and years. Then you get the promotion phase, which is when one last critical mutation happens that kind of flips the switch and turns that damaged cell into a cancerous one.
So what's actually driving all that initial damage? That's the key question. And according to the research, it pretty much boils down to 2 main problems happening inside our cells: oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. If those 2 things are left unchecked, they create the perfect storm for those dangerous gene mutations to start happening.
And this chart here does a great job of breaking down the different things that can push those 2 phases along. So, for example, something like X-rays might cause that initial damage, the initiation, but then other things like certain fatty foods can come along and promote the growth of those cells that are already damaged. Okay, now this is where the science gets incredibly hopeful. Because once you understand this long 2-part process, you realize there's this massive window of time where we can actually step in and potentially change the outcome. Get this, on average, it takes more than 15 years from the time you're first exposed to something that can cause cancer to when a solid tumor, like in breast cancer, actually becomes detectable. 15 years! That's not a ticking time bomb. That is a huge, huge window of opportunity for us to support our body's own defenses. So what do we do in that window? Well, the standard advice on the left, that's all absolutely vital. But what Dr. Prasad's framework suggests is that we might need to go a layer deeper. We need to add a really targeted focus on those root causes, like actively working to bring down that cellular stress and inflammation and really supporting our gut health. Okay, so that's prevention. But what if you're already diagnosed? What if you're already going through conventional treatment? Well, let's look at another story that shows how this whole approach can be used as a really powerful support system, not just an alternative. This is Cherie's story. She was diagnosed with a very aggressive, tough-to-treat breast cancer, and she followed her doctor's plan for chemo. But at the very same time, she started that same micronutrient protocol we've been talking about. And what happened next was just amazing. Her body responded so incredibly well that our own doctors decided to cut back her chemo schedule, and her surgery ended up being way less invasive than anyone expected. And, listen to this. This is what her own oncologist told her. They could see the incredible difference in her health and her numbers, and they basically told her, whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it. It's just such a powerful story of how an integrated approach can make a real difference. So, after hearing all this, what's the big picture? What's the main idea we should walk away with? Really, it's about a pretty fundamental shift in how we even think about our health. It all comes down to these core ideas. It's about moving from just a generally healthy lifestyle to a much more targeted strategy to actively protect your cells. It's about tackling those two core issues, oxidative stress and chronic inflammation, while at the same time boosting your body's own amazing defense and repair systems. And of course, it's really important to remember this is all for educational purposes. The whole point is to get you informed, because real empowerment comes from taking this kind of information and having good, open conversations with the medical professionals that you know and you trust. So I want to leave you with this one big question. What if we shifted our focus away from just waiting around for a diagnosis and instead focused on proactively creating an environment inside our bodies where disease just has a much harder time taking hold? The science we've touched on today suggests that long 15-plus year window gives us a powerful chance to do exactly that. If you want to learn more, we really encourage you to go explore the sources we used for today's explainer.